Listen, I'm gonna tell you about the worst day of my life. And brother, when I say worst, I mean the kind of day that breaks a man completely. The kind you don't recover from. Or at least, you don't think you will. I'm 34 years old. And 2 years ago, I was standing at the altar in front of 300 people, waiting for my fiancée to say I do. Instead, she said something that made my entire world collapse. But let me back up. Her name was Ashley. We'd been together 4 years. Met at a tech conference in Austin, one of those networking events where everyone's half drunk and pretending to care about blockchain or whatever. She worked in marketing. I was a senior software engineer at a mid-sized tech company. Good job, decent pay, nothing crazy but stable. We hit it off immediately. Or at least I thought we did. Year 2, I proposed. Took her to this overlook she loved, sunset, the whole 9 yards. She cried, said yes, posted it on Instagram before I even got the ring fully on her finger. I remember thinking that was weird, but man, I ignored a lot of red flags. I see that now. The wedding planning took forever. She wanted everything perfect. Destination venue, designer dress, the works. I was putting in extra hours at work to pay for it because her idea of a budget and mine were different. My boss Michael, this smooth-talking guy in his late 40s, always acted supportive. Gave me time off for cake tastings, told me marriage was worth the investment. He even got an invitation. Seemed like the professional thing to do since I reported directly to him. Looking back, Ashley started acting different around month 3 of the engagement. More time on her phone. More girls' nights. More distant. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd get defensive. Tell me I was being paranoid or controlling. So I backed off. Figured it was just wedding stress. The day of the wedding, brother, I woke up excited. Nervous as hell, but excited. My best man Jake helped me get ready, cracking jokes about how I was the first of our crew to tie the knot. My parents were there. Her parents, college friends, coworkers, extended family. 300 people. We'd rented this beautiful venue upstate, spent a stupid amount of money on flowers and an open bar. I stood at that altar in my rented tux, hands shaking a little, watching the doors. The music started. Bridesmaids came down. Then, Ashley appeared. White dress, veil, the whole cinematic moment. She looked beautiful. I felt my eyes water up. This was it. This was the start of our life together. She walked down that aisle with her father. Got to the front. He lifted her veil, kissed her cheek, shook my hand. I remember his hand was sweaty. Weird detail to remember, but I do. Ashley stepped up next to me. The officiant started talking about love and commitment and forever. Then we got to the vows. The officiant turned to Ashley first and asked if she took me to be her lawfully wedded husband. She looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that made my stomach drop. Not love, not joy. Something cold, guilty. She turned to face the crowd and just said it. Out loud, in front of everyone. She told them she couldn't do this, that she was pregnant, and that the baby wasn't mine. The room went silent, like someone had hit mute on the entire universe. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I just heard. Pregnant, not mine. What the hell was happening? Then she said the name. Michael. My boss Michael. She was pregnant with my boss's baby. I heard my mom gasp. Somebody in the back said, "Oh my God," really loud. Ashley's bridesmaids looked at each other in shock. The officiant just stood there with his mouth open. And me, man, I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think. Ashley started crying, saying she was sorry, that it just happened, that she didn't mean for it to go this far. She turned to look at the third row, and I followed her eyes. Michael was sitting there, in a suit, at my wedding. He stood up. She walked toward him, took his hand, and they walked out together. Just like that. Down the aisle, past all those people, out the doors. I watched her wedding dress disappear through the exit. To this day, I still don't know what her plan was. Was she gonna lie about the paternity? Was she having second thoughts about Michael? Did she panic at the last second and that's why she confessed? I'll never know. And honestly, I don't care anymore. 300 people stared at me. Some were crying. Some looked angry. Most just looked shocked, pitying. I stood there at that altar, alone, in front of everyone I knew. The most humiliating moment of my entire life. I don't really remember leaving. Jake said I just walked off the platform, went straight to the parking lot, got in my car, and sat there for an hour. He and my dad eventually came and got me, took me home. Well, to the apartment Ashley and I shared. Past tense, I guess. I spent that night on my couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how the woman I loved could do that. How my boss could do that. How they could plan this, carry on for months, and then she'd have the nerve to still show up. To walk down the aisle. To wait until that exact moment to destroy me in the most public way possible. Sunday was a blur. I didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Just sat there. Phone blowing up with messages I didn't read. My mom came by, tried to get me to talk. I told her I needed to be alone. Monday morning, I made a decision. I got up, showered, put on a suit. I was going to work. Because that's what you do, right? You push through. You don't let them see you break. Work was the only thing I had left that made sense. The only place where I had value, where I knew what I was doing. I pulled into the parking lot at 8:45 a.m., walked through those glass doors, headed to my desk. And that's when I learned that the nightmare wasn't even close to over. Michael called me into his office at 9 on the dot. I figured maybe he'd apologize, maybe try to explain, maybe, I don't know, something human. Instead, he looked at me across that big executive desk and told me I was fired. So there I was, Monday morning, 9 a.m., sitting across from Michael in his corner office. The same office where he'd given me my last 2 promotions. The same office where we'd talked about career goals and quarterly reviews. The same office where he'd probably been planning to screw my fiancée while I sat there like an idiot talking about code architecture. He didn't even have the decency to look uncomfortable. He leaned back in his chair and told me that given the circumstances, he thought it would be best if I took some time away from the company. Permanently. He used words like liability and emotional instability and workplace environment. Said he couldn't have someone on the team who might cause drama or make other employees uncomfortable. I just stared at him. The guy who'd been sleeping with my fiancée for God knows how long was firing me for being unstable. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't destroying my life in real time. I asked him if he was serious. He said HR already had the paperwork ready. Security would escort me out. I could collect my personal items under supervision. My access was already revoked. The walk from his office to my desk was the longest walk of my life. Everyone knew. I could see it in their faces. The quick looks away. The sudden silence when I passed. These people I'd worked with for 5 years, had lunch with, did happy hours with. They all knew. And nobody said a damn word to me. I packed my stuff into a cardboard box. My Celtics mug, a few books, picture frames I didn't even want anymore. The security guard stood there, watching me like I was gonna steal something. My coworker, Danny. This guy I'd mentored for 2 years. Couldn't even look at me. Just kept his eyes on his monitor. I found out later that Ashley and Michael had been hooking up for almost 6 months. 6 months. Half the office knew. They'd seen them leaving together, heard them on phone calls. One of the girls from accounting had apparently tried to warn me, but chickened out. Everyone just let it happen. Let me plan a wedding. Let me spend my savings. Let me stand at that altar. I drove home in the middle of the day. Monday. Unemployed. humiliated twice in 72 hours. When I opened the apartment door, I knew something was off immediately. It was too quiet, too empty. I walked into the bedroom and half the closet was gone. Her side of the bathroom cleared out. Dresser drawers empty. She'd planned this. While I was spending Sunday in shock, she'd come back with someone, probably Michael, and taken her stuff. Clean, efficient. Like I was just a problem she was solving. There was no note. No explanation. Just empty space where she used to be. The next few weeks were the darkest of my life, man. I'm not gonna lie and say I handled it well. I didn't fall apart in some dramatic movie way, but I was barely functioning. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, hit the gym, lift until my arms shook, run until my legs gave out. Anything to stop thinking. The gym became my escape. I was there too, sometimes 3 times a day. Lost 15 pounds in a month. People probably thought I was getting healthier, but really I was just trying to exhaust myself into not feeling anything. Nights were worse. I'd sit in that empty apartment with a bottle of whiskey and my laptop, applying to jobs. The tech market was tight. My old company wasn't giving me a good reference, I could tell. Applications went nowhere. LinkedIn messages got left on read. I was basically blacklisted. My boy Jake kept checking on me. He'd text asking if I wanted to grab food or catch a game. I'd say I was busy. He'd show up anyway sometimes. Just sit there on my couch, not saying much, watching basketball. I appreciated it, but I also kind of resented it. I didn't want to talk. Didn't want to process or share my feelings or whatever. I just wanted to be left alone to deal with it my way. My mom called every day, wanted me to come home for a while, stay with them. I told her I was fine. She didn't believe me, but she stopped pushing. My dad called once, said something about how some people show you who they really are, and you just gotta accept it and move on. That was it. No therapy suggestions. No emotional deep dive. Just move on. Honestly, that helped more than all my mom's worry. Month 2, I couldn't make rent. The apartment Ashley and I had was too expensive for one income, especially no income. I had some savings, but that was draining fast. I moved to a studio in a worse part of town. 1 room. Bathroom barely fit a toilet and shower. But it was $300 cheaper, and I needed every dollar. I started driving for Uber. Yeah. From senior software engineer to Uber driver in 8 weeks. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd pick people up from tech company offices, 22-year-old kids talking about their stock options and their startups, and I'd just drive and keep my mouth shut. At night I'd do food delivery. DoorDash, Grubhub, whatever paid. I made enough to survive. Barely. Ramen and protein shakes. No social life. No dating. Just work and gym and sleep, on repeat. The worst part was seeing them online. I know I should have blocked her, unfollowed, whatever, but I couldn't help it. Ashley's Instagram went private, but mutual friends would post stuff. Her at some charity gala with Michael, her showing off the baby bump. Her in front of his mansion, this massive place with a pool and a view. Living the life she'd always wanted, just not with me. I'd see those posts at 2 a.m., sitting in my studio, and I'd feel this rage building. Not the explosive kind, the cold kind, the kind that just sits in your chest and hardens into something permanent. I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. At her. At him. At myself for being blind. At the world for being this unfair. 3 months in, I was numb. Wake up. Gym. Drive strangers around. Eat. Sleep. Repeat. My friends stopped reaching out as much. I'd pushed them away enough times that they got the message. My family called less. Everyone moved on with their lives. I thought this was it. This was my new reality. 32 years old, broken, alone, driving drunk college kids home at midnight for $15 a ride. Then my phone rang. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I just dropped someone off at the airport and was about to head back downtown for the evening rush. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I'm glad I did. The voice on the other end was professional, formal, a woman from some law office in Connecticut. She asked if I was me, confirmed my identity, then told me she was calling about my grandfather's estate. I was confused. My grandfather, my dad's dad, had been dead for 15 years. I barely remembered him. There'd been some family drama before I was born. My dad cut ties. We never really talked about it. I'd met him maybe twice as a kid. Rich guy, real estate developer, lived on the East Coast. That was about all I knew. The lawyer kept talking. Said my grandfather had passed away 3 weeks ago, that his will was being executed, that I was named as a beneficiary. I pulled over. Told her I'd need her to repeat that. She did. My grandfather had left me everything. The entire estate. Every property. Every investment. Every dollar. I asked her how much we were talking about. She paused, then said the number that would change my entire life. $40 million. I sat in my beat-up Honda in some random parking lot, phone pressed to my ear, trying to process what I was hearing. She explained that my grandfather had amended his will 5 years ago, that he'd left specific instructions. Something about me being the only family member who never contacted him asking for money. The only one who didn't try to use him. I hadn't contacted him because I didn't even know he was alive. But apparently, that was exactly why he left me everything. The lawyer gave me details about next steps, meetings, paperwork, verification. She said the estate was already through probate. Everything was ready. I just needed to sign some documents and provide banking information. It would take a few weeks to process, but the money was mine. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there. $40 million. I was 3 months removed from being left at the altar, humiliated in front of everyone I knew, fired from my job, living in a 400-square-foot studio, driving strangers around for money. And now I was about to inherit $40 million. Brother, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So I just sat there in silence, staring at the steering wheel, wondering what the hell just happened to my life. The next morning, I called the law firm back, set up a meeting for Friday. They were in Hartford, about 3 hours from me. I took the drive, walked into this marble floor office building, sat in a conference room with mahogany furniture that probably cost more than my entire studio apartment. There were 3 lawyers. The lead one, Patricia, walked me through everything. My grandfather's name was William Crawford. He'd built a real estate empire from nothing starting in the 70s. Shopping centers, office buildings, residential developments. By the time he died, the portfolio was worth close to $200 million. After estate taxes and some charitable donations he'd specified, I was getting $40 million liquid, plus a few properties. I asked about the family stuff. Why me? Why not my dad or my uncles or anyone else? Patricia pulled out a folder. Apparently, my grandfather had 6 kids. My dad was the youngest. All of them, except my dad, had spent decades fighting over money, asking for loans, demanding investments in their businesses, threatening lawsuits. Classic rich family drama. My dad was the only one who walked away. Cut contact entirely when I was like 2 years old. Said he didn't want anything to do with that world. My grandfather had respected that. For 40 years, he watched his other kids and grandkids circle like vultures. Then 5 years ago, he changed his will. Left everything to me. The one grandkid who never knew him, never asked for anything, never even tried to contact him. The lawyer said he'd left a letter. She handed it to me. 1 page. Handwritten. It basically said that he'd made mistakes as a father. That money had poisoned his family, and that he wanted to give someone a chance to do better with it. Someone who didn't grow up entitled. Someone who'd had to work. He'd been following my life apparently. The liar said he'd hired a private investigator years ago to keep tabs on all his grandchildren. Not in a creepy way, just wanted to know how we turned out. Knew I was a software engineer. Knew I was engaged. The letter was dated 8 months before the wedding, so he never knew how that turned out. Probably for the best. The whole thing felt surreal. This stranger, this man I barely remembered, had been watching me from a distance and decided I deserved his fortune. Not because of anything I did. Just because I didn't do anything. Didn't ask. Didn't want. Patricia walked me through the next steps. Sign here. Initial there. Banking information. Tax implications. She recommended a wealth management firm. Said I should get a financial advisor and probably a lawyer of my own. The money would transfer in 2 to 3 weeks once all the paperwork cleared. I drove home in a daze. Kept thinking about that number. 40 million. I tried to imagine it, but I couldn't. It was just too abstract, too big, too impossible. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Jake. Nobody. Something about it felt private. Fragile. Like if I said it out loud, it might disappear. Plus, I needed time to process. To plan. To figure out what the hell I was going to do with that kind of money. The waiting was torture, man. 2.5 weeks of just existing in this weird limbo. I kept driving Uber because what else was I going to do? Kept living in my studio. Kept eating ramen. But in the back of my mind, there was this countdown. This knowledge that everything was about to change. I met with the financial advisor Patricia recommended. Guy named Robert, late 50s, expensive suit, had managed portfolios for professional athletes and lottery winners. He told me horror stories about people who got sudden wealth and blew it all in 5 years. Gave me a whole strategy about diversification and investments and trusts. I listened, took notes, felt completely out of my depth, but tried to absorb as much as possible. He said the key was to not change my lifestyle immediately. Don't go crazy. Don't tell people. Don't make big emotional purchases. Let the money sit. Let it work. Live off the interest and dividends, not the principal. Boring advice, but it made sense. Then one morning, 18 days after that first phone call, I was sitting in my studio drinking coffee, and I checked my bank account on my phone out of habit. And there it was, $40,216,843.72. I stared at the screen, refreshed it. Still there. Looked at the account name, mine, the routing number, the balance. I set the phone down on my kitchen counter, sat down on the floor. Just sat there for probably 20 minutes, back against the cabinet, staring at nothing. It was real. It had actually happened. I wasn't broke anymore. I wasn't desperate anymore. I didn't even know what I was. I felt a weird mix of relief and disbelief. I didn't jump around or celebrate wildly. I just sat there processing. Then I started thinking about next steps. Diversify, invest, plan. Eventually, I stood up, made another coffee, sat at my laptop, started thinking about next steps. What Robert had said. Diversify, invest, plan. Don't be stupid. I spent the next week doing research, looking at index funds and bonds and real estate investment trusts. Set up meetings with Robert to start moving money into different accounts. Created a budget that felt insane. I could literally spend $10,000 a month and never touch the principal. The math didn't feel real. I bought a car. Nothing crazy. A Tesla Model 3. Felt like an extravagance, but also I was tired of my Honda dying in parking lots. I got a better apartment. 2-bedroom in a decent part of town. Paid 6 months up front. Furniture from IKEA, because I still couldn't bring myself to spend big money on stupid stuff. To everyone else, it probably looked like I'd gotten a decent job. Nobody questioned it. I let them think that. Didn't volunteer information. I quit Uber, obviously. Started going to the gym at normal hours instead of at 5 a.m. Started sleeping better, eating better. It was like I could finally breathe for the first time in months. But I kept it quiet. Didn't post on social media. Didn't tell my family yet. I would eventually, but I needed time. The only people who knew were the lawyers and Robert. That was it. I thought I could just ease into this new life slowly, carefully, keep my head down. Then 2 weeks after the money hit my account, I made a mistake. I went to the grocery store near my old neighborhood, ran into Danny, my old coworker, the one who couldn't look at me when I got fired. We did that awkward small talk thing. He asked what I was up to. I said consulting work. He noticed the Tesla in the parking lot through the window, made some comment about it. I just shrugged. We parted ways. Apparently, that was enough. Word travels fast in small circles. Tech scene in our city wasn't that big. People talk. Someone must have mentioned seeing me. Looking good. New car. Better place. The rumor mill started turning. People started speculating. Someone must have done the math about the inheritance, looked up obituaries, found my grandfather's name. I don't know exactly how it happened, but 2 days after I ran into Danny, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I deleted months ago, but still recognized instantly. Ashley. The message said, "Hey, I know it's been a while. How have you been? I've been thinking about you a lot lately. Can we talk?" I stared at that message for a long time. The audacity, the timing, the fake casual tone like she hadn't destroyed my life in front of 300 people. I didn't respond. Deleted it. Blocked the number. An hour later, another text. Different number. Her again. Must have borrowed someone's phone. This one said, "I heard about your grandfather. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know we didn't end well, but I still care about you. We should talk. About everything. About us. Us. There was no us. There hadn't been an us since she walked out of that church holding Michael's hand, but she wasn't done. Over the next 3 days, the messages kept coming. Different numbers. Then an email. Then a message request on LinkedIn. Each one got progressively more desperate, more manipulative. She missed me. She made a mistake. She'd been confused. Pregnancy hormones. Michael wasn't who she thought he was. Things weren't working out. She never wanted to hurt me. We never officially broke up, did we? Maybe we could talk. Just coffee. Just to clear the air. Then came the big one. The message that made me realize just how low she was willing to go. She texted, "I need to tell you something important. About the baby. I've been doing the math and I'm not sure about the dates anymore. There's a chance it could be yours. We should talk about this in person. You deserve to know." I sat there reading that message and felt nothing but cold rage. The baby was due in December. We'd ended things in June. We were in October now. That made her 7 months pregnant. The math didn't work at all. She knew it. I knew it. She was lying, using a baby, an innocent kid, as a manipulation tool to get access to my money. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I got an email from Michael, my ex-boss. The man who'd fired me. The man who'd taken my fiancée. The subject line said, "Opportunity to reconnect." The email was long, professional tone. He apologized for how things ended. Said it was a complicated situation. That he'd always respected my work. That he'd made some personnel decisions hastily and regretted them. He wanted to extend an olive branch. There was a VP of engineering position opening up at his company. 300,000 base salary, stock options, full benefits. He thought I'd be perfect for it. Wanted to set up a call to discuss. I read that email 3 times. Each time I got angrier. They both crawled out of the woodwork the second they smelled money. Ashley with her fake regrets and impossible baby math. Michael with his fake job offer. Both of them desperate. Both of them transparent. I didn't respond to either of them. Not yet. I needed to think, needed to plan, because I was done being the victim, done being humiliated, done being the guy everyone felt sorry for. These people had taken their best shot at me. They destroyed me publicly, taken everything I had, left me to rebuild from nothing, and now they wanted back in. Now that I had money, now that I wasn't useful to kick around anymore. I decided right then that I was going to handle this my way. Cold, calculated, final. I was going to look Ashley in the eyes one more time and make sure she understood exactly what she'd lost. And I was going to make sure Michael knew that firing me was the biggest mistake he'd ever made. But first, I needed to see just how desperate they'd gotten, just how far they'd go. I texted Ashley back from a new number. 3 words, coffee, Thursday, downtown. Her response came in under a minute. She'd be there. She couldn't wait to see me. She had so much to say. Yeah, I bet she did. Thursday came. I got to the coffee shop 15 minutes early. Picked a table in the back corner. Ordered black coffee. Waited. Ashley walked in at exactly 2 p.m. I saw her through the window before she saw me. 8 months pregnant. Huge belly. She was wearing this flowy dress, hair done, makeup perfect. She looked nervous. Good. She spotted me. Smiled. That same smile she'd given me 1,000 times. The one I used to think was genuine. Now it just looked fake, calculated. She walked over. Slower than normal because of the pregnancy. Sat down across from me. Reached across the table like she was going to touch my hand. I pulled back. Kept my hands in my lap. She noticed. Her smile faltered a little. She said it was good to see me, that I looked good. Had I been working out? New car, she'd heard. Things must be going well. I didn't answer. Just looked at her, waited. She started talking, fast. Nervous energy. Told me she'd been thinking about me constantly. That ending things the way we did was a mistake. That she'd been confused, scared, overwhelmed. The pregnancy had happened so fast and Michael had seemed so stable and successful and she'd panicked. But these past few months had shown her what really mattered. That money and security weren't the same as love. That what we had was real. I let her talk. Didn't interrupt. Just watched her perform. Then she dropped the bomb I'd been expecting. Said that she'd been doing the math on the pregnancy dates. That she wasn't entirely sure anymore. That there was a window where it could have been mine. That she owed me the truth. That maybe we should do a paternity test. That if the baby was mine, we could figure things out together. Co-parent. Maybe even try again. I took a sip of my coffee, set it down. Looked her dead in the eyes. Told her the baby was due in a few months, based on what she'd posted online. That we'd broken up back in early summer. That made her about 8 months pregnant at that moment. Which meant conception would have happened in late winter. We'd had sex maybe twice that entire month because she'd been distant and I'd been working overtime. Neither time would have lined up with when she got pregnant, but I knew when it would have lined up. Michael's company had that executive retreat in Napa. Week-long trip in late winter. She'd told me she had a girls' trip that same week. I remembered because I'd thought it was weird timing but didn't question it. I told her I'd done the math, multiple times. The baby wasn't mine. She knew it wasn't mine. And using an innocent kid as a manipulation tactic to get access to money was about the lowest thing I could imagine. Her face went pale. She started to say something. I cut her off. Told her I knew about the inheritance, obviously. That's why she was here. That's why she texted 15 times from different numbers. That's why she was suddenly unsure about paternity. Not because of dates, because of dollars. She tried to deny it, said it wasn't about money, that she genuinely had feelings for me still, that Michael had changed, that he was controlling and cold and obsessed with work, that she'd made a mistake choosing him, that she wanted to come home, like we still had one, like she hadn't walked out of a church with another man's baby and destroyed every piece of the life we'd built. I leaned back in my chair, told her there was no home, there was no us, there never would be again, that what she did at that wedding wasn't just betrayal, it was cruelty, public humiliation, a calculated destruction of another human being in the most painful way possible, and I didn't forgive that. I wouldn't forgive that. Ever. She started crying. Real tears or fake, I didn't know and didn't care. She said she was sorry, that she'd been stupid, that she'd do anything to fix this. I stood up, told her it was nothing to fix, that I hoped she and Michael figured out their situation, that I hoped the baby was healthy, but that I was done, completely, forever. She reached for my arm. I stepped back, told her not to contact me again, that I'd block every number, every email, every platform, that if she kept trying, I'd get a restraining order. Then I walked out, didn't look back, didn't wait for a response. Just left her sitting there in that coffee shop, 7 months pregnant, crying. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness, just empty, like closing a door on a room I'd never enter again. I sat in my car for a minute before driving away, took a breath, then pulled out my phone and opened my email. Michael's message was still there. The VP offer, the fake apology, the olive branch. I hit reply, kept it short, told him thanks for the offer, but I'd have to decline, that I was starting my own company, software consulting, custom application development, same industry, same market, launching in 2 weeks, and that I'd been talking to some of his best engineers who were ready to jump ship for better pay and equity. Wished him luck competing. Sent it. His response came back in under an hour. Just 2 sentences. Very professional. Very cold. Said he understood my decision and wished me well in my endeavors. I knew he was panicking. I'd hit him where it hurt. His talent pool, his market share, his ego. Good. Over the next 2 months, I built something real. Used $2 million of the inheritance as startup capital. Hired a business consultant. Filed the LLC paperwork. Got office space. Nothing crazy, just a small suite downtown. Built a website. Started making calls. I reached out to Danny, my old co-worker who couldn't look at me during the firing. Offered him a senior developer position. 20% more than Michael was paying him. Equity stake. He said yes in 48 hours. Then I called 3 other engineers I'd worked with. Good people, talented, underpaid. Made them the same offer. All 3 accepted. Word got around fast. Michael's company started bleeding talent, not just to me. Once people saw others leaving, it created momentum. His reputation took a hit. Everyone knew why I'd left. Everyone knew what he'd done. Some people didn't care, but enough people did. I focused on building something better than what he had. Better product, better culture, better terms for employees. I wasn't trying to destroy him out of spite. I was just trying to win. And winning meant being better. We landed our first client in week 3. Mid-size healthcare company. Needed a custom patient management system. Paid us $120,000 for the project. We delivered it in 6 weeks. They loved it. Referred us to 2 other companies. By month 4, we had 8 employees and 4 active contracts worth almost $1 million combined. Revenue was climbing. The business was profitable immediately because I wasn't taking loans or worrying about investor pressure. I could build slow, build right, but the vultures kept circling. Ashley's mom reached out, email, said she'd heard I was doing well, that Ashley was struggling, that the baby was born, a boy, healthy. that Michael had left Ashley 2 weeks before the birth. Just walked out. Said he wasn't ready for fatherhood. Now Ashley was a single mom living in some apartment working retail. Her mom wondered if I might be willing to help financially, for old time's sake. I deleted the email. Old friends started appearing. People I hadn't heard from in years. Suddenly wanted to grab coffee. Catch up. Hey man, long time no see, how's life treating you? Every conversation somehow wound its way to money, investments, loans, business opportunities, partnership ideas. I said no to all of it. Politely, firmly. No. My family found out about the inheritance. I told them eventually. My mom cried. My dad asked if I was being smart with it. I told them I had advisors, that I was investing, building a business. They were proud, worried, both. The weirdest part was running into people from my old life. At the grocery store, at the gym. They'd heard things, rumors, that I'd come into money, that I had a company, that I was doing well. The looks I got changed. Some people were happy for me. Some were jealous. Some were opportunistic. Michael tried to poach Danny back. Offered him a raise. Danny told him no. Said he liked where he was. Michael tried to undercut our pricing with clients. We beat him on quality instead. He tried to spread rumors that our company was unstable. It didn't stick because our work spoke for itself. 6 months after I started the company, we had 15 employees and $2 million in annual revenue. We'd moved to a bigger office. I still lived modestly. Nice apartment, but nothing insane. Drove the Tesla. Ate well. Hit the gym. Dated casually, but nothing serious. I wasn't ready for that yet. Maybe I wouldn't be for a long time. That was okay. I ran into Jake one night at a bar. Hadn't seen him in months. We caught up. He asked how I was really doing. Not the business stuff. Me. I told him the truth, that I was good. Better than good. That I'd been through hell, but I came out the other side. That Ashley and Michael had tried to break me and failed. That I'd built something real from the ashes of the worst period of my life. He raised his glass, said he was proud of me. That what happened at that wedding was brutal, but that I'd handled the aftermath like a champion. I appreciated that. Meant more coming from him than from anyone else. Life settled into a rhythm. Work. Gym. Friends when I felt like it. Solitude when I didn't. I was healing. Slowly. Not through therapy or talking about my feelings, but through building. Through winning. Through proving to myself that I was more than what they'd tried to reduce me to. Then, one morning, about 8 months after the coffee shop meeting with Ashley, I was going through my business email and saw something that made me stop. A resume, sent to our general hiring inbox. The name at the top, Ashley Mitchell. She'd applied for an admin assistant position at my company. $35,000 a year. Entry level. I stared at that resume for a long time. Read through it. Retail jobs. No degree. References from people I didn't know. At the bottom, in the cover letter section, she'd written, "I'm a hard worker willing to learn. I have personal experience with the founder and believe I could be an asset to the team." Personal experience with the founder. The audacity was almost impressive. I forwarded the email to my HR manager with one line. "Not a fit for our company culture. Please send a standard rejection." I never heard from Ashley again after that. Don't know where she ended up. Don't care. Michael's company struggled. Not because of me specifically, but because he'd made enemies. Lost clients. Lost talent. Last I heard, they downsized. He was still the CEO, but it wasn't the empire it used to be. My company kept growing. 80 months in, we hit $5 million in revenue. 25 employees. 3 offices. I brought on a QA to handle daily operations so I could focus on strategy and growth. I started dating someone. Met her at a friend's barbecue. She worked in graphic design. Had no idea who I was or what I had. We took it slow. I didn't tell her about the money for months. When I finally did, she didn't care. She liked me for me. It was refreshing, different, real. 2 years after standing at that altar, humiliated and broken, I was sitting in my corner office, looking out over the city. My company, my team, my success. I thought about where I'd been. Rock bottom. Destroyed. Driving strangers around for $15 a ride. Sleeping on a mattress on the floor of a studio apartment. Wondering if I ever feel whole again. And I thought about where I was now. Successful. Stable. Happy. Not because of the money. The money helped. But the real win was proving to myself that I could rebuild. That I was stronger than the worst thing that ever happened to me. Ashley took her best shot. Michael took his. They both missed, and I was still standing. So here I am, 2 years and 3 months after that wedding, sitting in my office on the 23rd floor of a building downtown. Corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows. View of the whole city. My company has 52 employees now. We just closed our biggest contract yet. $8.2 million over 3 years with a Fortune 500 healthcare provider. Our annual revenue hit $12 million last quarter. We're profitable, growing, stable. I'm not the CEO anymore. Hired someone better at that job than me about 6 months ago. Woman named Jennifer, 20 years of experience, actually knows how to run a company. I'm Chief Technology Officer. I build. I strategize. I do what I'm good at. Let other people handle what they're good at. The money from my grandfather sits in investments. Generates about $2 million a year in dividends and interest. I don't touch the principal. Live off my salary from the company and some of the investment income. The rest goes back into growing the wealth. Robert was right. Boring investing works. I bought a house. Nothing crazy. 3-bedroom and a good neighborhood. Paid cash. Furnished it slowly over a year. Got a dog. Black lab named Cooper. Best decision I ever made. Comes to the office with me most days. Employees love him. The girlfriend from the barbecue. Her name's Amanda. We've been together 1.5 years. She moved in 6 months ago. It's good. Healthy. We don't fight much. When we do, it's about normal stuff, like whose turn it is to do dishes, or whether we're spending Thanksgiving with her family or mine. Not about trust. Not about lies. Not about betrayal. She knows the whole story. I told her on our 4th date. Figured she deserved to know what she was getting into. She listened. Didn't judge. Didn't pity me. Just said that Ashley sounded like a piece of work, and that Michael sounded worse. Then we moved on. Talked about other things. Normal things. I like that about her. She doesn't treat me like I'm damaged. Doesn't walk on eggshells. Just treats me like a person. Like someone worth being with because of who I am now, not despite what happened to me then. My company ended up competing directly with Michael's firm on 3 major bids this year. We won all 3. Not because I was trying to destroy him. Just because we were better, faster, more innovative. Better culture meant better retention, meant better work. I heard through the grapevine that Michael had to lay off about 30% of his workforce 8 months ago. Lost 2 of his biggest clients. One of them came to us. The other went to a competitor in California. His company still exists, but it's a shadow of what it was. He's scrambling. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. As for Ashley, I know less about her situation because I genuinely don't care enough to keep tabs. But information finds its way to you whether you want it or not in the small tech community. Last I heard she was living in a 2-bedroom apartment across town, working as an office manager at a dental practice, making about $40,000 a year, raising her son alone. Michael pays child support, but apparently it's the bare minimum. No custody, no involvement. He wanted nothing to do with being a father once the relationship fell apart. Turns out the mansion and the fancy life were contingent on her being with him. Once they split, she got a settlement, but nothing like what she probably thought she'd get. And his company tanking meant less money overall. She tried reaching out one more time about 6 months ago. Different email. Different email. Subject line just said, "Please read." I didn't open it. Sent it straight to spam. Blocked the address. I don't wish her harm. Don't wish her well either. Just don't wish her anything. She's a stranger who hurt me once. That's it. The resume she sent to my company. The one asking for a $35,000 admin job. My HR manager didn't even know who she was. Just saw an underqualified applicant and sent the standard rejection. I never told him the connection. Didn't need to. The outcome was the same either way. Michael tried to connect with me on LinkedIn 2 months ago. Sent a message with the request. Said he'd been reflecting on the past and wanted to clear the air. That what happened was unprofessional and he regretted how things went down. That maybe we could grab coffee sometime. Professional courtesy. I let the request sit there for a week, then declined it. No message, no explanation, just declined. He got the message. My parents ask me sometimes if I've forgiven them. Ashley and Michael, if I've let it go, moved on, found peace. I tell them I have moved on. I have a good life. A great life, actually. Better than I ever imagined having. But forgiveness, that's not really on the table. Not because I'm holding a grudge. Just because forgiveness implies they deserve something from me. And they don't. They're not worth the emotional energy it would take to forgive them. I don't think about them most days. When I do, it's factual, distant. Like remembering a bad movie I watched once. Unpleasant, but not painful anymore. The gym still helps. I lift 4 times a week, run 3. It's not about escaping anymore. It's just routine, discipline, something I enjoy. I see Jake regularly. He got engaged last year. Asked me to be a groomsman. I said yes. We grab beers every couple weeks. Talk about sports and work and life. Normal guy stuff. He never brings up the wedding unless I do. I appreciate that. My relationship with my dad got better. We talk more now. He told me a few months ago that he was proud of how I handled everything, that a lot of men would have broken, would have gotten bitter or angry or self-destructive. But I took the hit and came back stronger. He said that's what real strength looks like. Coming from him, that meant something. I hired a guy last month who used to work for Michael. Smart developer. Great portfolio. During the interview, I asked him why he was leaving. He said the culture had gotten toxic. That Michael had become paranoid and controlling. That people were miserable. I didn't probe further. Just asked technical questions. Hired him based on merit. He's doing great work. Sometimes I think about that day at the altar. 300 people watching. Ashley announcing she was pregnant with my boss's baby. The silence. The stares. The absolute rock-bottom humiliation of that moment. And then I look around my office. At my team. At the success we've built. At the life I have now. At Amanda sleeping next to me most nights. At Cooper sprawled on his dog bed in the corner. At my bank account that could support 10 lifetimes of comfort. And I realized something. That day at the altar was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But it was also the thing that forced me to become who I am now. Not because of some bullshit, everything happens for a reason philosophy, but because I had a choice in how to respond. I could have stayed broken, could have stayed bitter, could have let them win. I chose not to. I chose to rebuild, to work, to grow, to use the anger as fuel instead of poison, to take the inheritance and do something smart with it instead of blowing it on revenge fantasies or temporary highs. I didn't forgive them, but I stopped letting them live rent-free in my head. Stopped caring what they thought or did or became. Just focused on my lane, my life, my future. That's the real win. Not the money. Not the successful company. Not even the fact that they both ended up worse off than they started. The real win is that I'm happy. Genuinely happy. In a way I never was, even when I was with Ashley. Because this happiness isn't dependent on another person. It's not fragile. It's built on a foundation of self-reliance and hard work and genuine relationships. I learned that betrayal says everything about the person who betrayed you and nothing about your worth. That sometimes the trash takes itself out and you should be grateful it did. That the best revenge isn't elaborate or dramatic. It's just living well. Building something real. Being someone you're proud of. Ashley took her shot. Michael took his. They both thought they'd won. She got the rich guy. He got the girl. They had their moment of triumph at my expense. But that moment ended, and reality set in. And turns out you can't build a life on betrayal and selfishness and manipulation. It collapses eventually. Meanwhile, I built something that lasts. Something real. Something I'm proud of. 2 years ago, I was standing at an altar, humiliated, destroyed, convinced my life was over. Today, I'm sitting in my corner office, financially secure, professionally successful, personally content, planning a weekend trip with my girlfriend and my dog. I won. They lost. Not because I tried to make them lose. Just because I focused on winning. And you know what the crazy part is? If you told me on that day at the altar that this is where I'd end up, I wouldn't have believed you. Would have thought you were lying to make me feel better. Because from that low point, this seemed impossible. But here I am, still standing. Stronger than before. Better than before. And that's the whole story, man. That's how I went from the worst day of my life to the best version of myself. Not through forgiveness or therapy or some spiritual journey. Just through work. Through grinding. Through refusing to stay down. Ashley's probably tucking her kid into bed right now in some apartment she can barely afford. Michael's probably sitting in his shrinking office trying to figure out how to stop hemorrhaging clients. And I'm here, looking out over the city I conquered, living the life they tried to take from me. I don't think about them anymore. Not really. They're just characters in a story I tell sometimes. A story about betrayal and humiliation and rock bottom. But more importantly, a story about getting back up. About rebuilding. About winning. Because that's what I did. I won. And that's it. That's the whole damn story. So I gotta ask, should I have forgiven her? Should I have given Ashley another chance when she came crawling back? Part of me wonders if I was too cold, too harsh. But honestly, I don't think I could have lived with myself if I'd taken her back. Some things you just can't come back from. Looking back now, man, the red flags were there the whole time. I just didn't want to see them. The distance. The phone obsession. The way she got defensive when I asked simple questions. Trust your gut when something feels off. Don't ignore the warning signs like I did. Actions speak louder than words, remember that. And man, I want to know where you guys are listening from. What time is it over there? Just curious how far this story went, you know? And if you got your own story, been betrayed, screwed over, whatever it is, share it down below. Seriously, you might be the next anonymous man telling his story right here. Stay strong, brothers.